First one for you here is the Mirror Sport Don't Go, I Need Blue. And it's Willian and Frank Lampard. Frank Lampard's first task as Chelsea manager will be to keep 35 million winger Willian from Barcelona. The Derby boss and Blues legend remains on course to succeed Maurizio Sarri at Stamford Bridge with a 3-year deal on offer. They were on, there's pictures of Roman Abramovich's boat on many of the other tabloids because apparently they were on it and they were chatting and they got to a 3-year deal. And apparently Willian is the most important thing he's going to do. Keep Willian. Could you not have done this deal like 3 weeks ago and said, could you have a little word with Eden Hazard, please? No, Willian's the man.
I would consider it a meteoric rise, having done 1 year in club football and getting on a yacht in Saint-Tropez with Roman Abramovich. That's a pretty good start to your managerial career.
Yeah.
Forget your trophies. I was on a yacht in Saint-Tropez after 1 year of my career. Where were you? That's what Frank Lampard is going to use when he's bragging to his friends.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say he's been on the yacht before.
As a manager, like solely on the basis of that.
I think he got did they not get the yacht to party on a couple of times on their own?
Did they?
I think I have vague recollections of pictures of...
That was as a player though.
Yeah.
This is as a boring manager who's supposed to enable players. He's on a yacht as a manager after 1 season in the championship. Now granted, this is all because Frank Lampard is Frank Lampard, but it's still not a bad old rocket up the rankings of life. The Irish Times this morning leads with Kevin McStay's column. Success a reward for 8 months of slog. Picture there of Enda Smith lifting the trophy and tracking the history of how the games made waves. This is Sean Moore at the GA Museum talking about a new exhibition which is celebrating the broadcasting of Gaelic games from the first days of radio.
They put Marty Morrissey in the museum and he's not coming out. And he's going to stay there now for the rest of his life. And that's it.
Just woken up this morning behind...
You put a euro in and he talks. He does that intro from the All-Ireland a couple of years ago that he was reading off that missed the start of the game. That one.
Say the line, Marty, say the line. And then he says something that was like a Cranberries lyric. He's just woken up this morning and he's like, why is there a glass pane in front of me?
What else you got for us?
McConville sees Donegal as the main challenge to Dublin ambitions. This seems to be a story that's kind of doing the rounds everywhere today. The idea of who's the biggest challenger to Dublin. McConville is saying Donegal. Sean Kavanagh seems to be saying Kerry. Also, this other one, this is actually one of the big stories, probably the big story today. It's staleness affected FAI under Delaney, says Mooney. So this is Noel Mooney, who was speaking on the Greatest League in the World podcast yesterday. Some interesting stuff about John Delaney and about the League of Ireland.
Pogba quids in. Of course he is, but anyway, Red Devils offer one-to-way star 500 grand a week. Well, that's the thing to do. You don't want to be with us, you're not putting in the effort. We're going to pay you more money to not want to be with us and not put in the effort. That's how you run a business, Eoin. That's how you become the biggest club in the world, TM, and sell tractors in Armenia. Manchester United are prepared to offer Paul Pogba a new mega money contract in a bid to persuade their unsettled star to stay. They're set to address the issue by offering Pogba a pay rise that will up his current 290 grand a week to near the 500 grand being picked up by United's top earner Alexis Sanchez. So instead of taking Alexis Sanchez out, they're now establishing this as the new base mark. If this story is true, it's the dumbest thing that any football club has ever done in the history of dumb football club things.
Manchester United have said to themselves, right, I'm going to get my act together. Going to make some signings, sensible signings, like Daniel James, for example. Good move for the future. And then it's like, look at those jersey sales. Who am I kidding? Of course not. What am I going to do with Daniel James in the team? That is no fun whatsoever. The calamity that has been the last couple of seasons at Manchester United. We need to continue this. This has been a hell of a lot of fun. I'm Ed Woodward and I've been in the headlines quite a bit. How can I continue to be in the headlines? Well, let's give Paul Pogba even more money than he is. Ultimately, if you're playing a game of FIFA Football Manager, then keeping Paul Pogba is what you do, but ultimately this is real life. Having more Paul Pogba's, having more players of Paul Pogba's quality would be a good thing for Manchester United. But ultimately, Paul Pogba himself, get different ones. Yeah, Paul Pogba himself is not the right version of Paul Pogba.
Make the effort.
The back page of the Herald this morning goes with diluted dubs driven on more. This is interesting stuff from Senan Connell speaking yesterday, talking about how the Dubs might actually be a little bit hurt by the talk about resources and finances in Dublin. He says, I'd say it hurts a little bit because I know it's diluting what they have achieved. I know if I was in that changing room, that would hurt a bit, that no one appreciates us because some people on the outside are putting it down to numbers and demographics and all that. So I'd say it hurts and it'll drive them on even more. It will probably drive Jim on even more to create a dynasty until there is change. Do you think that they're sitting around in the dressing room thinking, God, we've been financially doped. That's what people are saying. Let's go out and score 5 goals against Louth and crush them. That's the only way to prove them wrong.
I don't think it's as out there as that, but I'd say that they're reading the stuff that is out there. They're aware of it and they're annoyed by it. Do you speak to any Dubs fans on a regular basis, like proper True Blue Dubs fans?
I've done it in times before, and I've never got there again. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're always annoyed by the commentary around the team. Always like properly annoyed that the volunteerism doesn't get the credit, that the superstar players don't get the credit. Like when Kilkenny were in their peak, you know, you would have heard Daithí Regan talking about Jackie Tyrrell as one of the greatest cornerbacks that's ever played the game. Like maybe you do hear a lot of that as it does, but it's not the first thing that people go to. It's like, well, I mean, shouldn't they be winning all the time? With the money and the coaches and the population and the sponsorship and the $6,000 a pop for these imaginary things. I mean, sorry, I just wanted to talk briefly about that story. That was the biggest lot of bollocks I've ever seen. Maybe one person got $6,000 once, an industry source. Who was the person? Like, anybody who put their name to, anybody should be willing to put their name to a claim like, oh yeah, they're all getting $6,000 a pop for those endorsement deals. They're not. They absolutely aren't.
That's something that I'd say would have annoyed some of the Dubs. I see Michael Darragh Macaulay was tweeting about that yesterday.
What did he say?
To be fair, just kind of a sarcastic comment about, oh, we all get paid $6,000 for saying things, or did you get paid $6,000 for that tweet or something? I like. Forgive me for actually forgetting the specifics of it, but it was a tone that suggested
fair play to him.
That was a load of nonsense, and that you have every right to be pissed off about.
So, but that's the same. So if you're in that dressing room, right? Are you not seeing that as part of the constant commentary about you? And like, look, you know, there's loads of good stuff written about you, but you don't read the good stuff and think, oh yeah, I am one of the best, whatever. It's like, no, that guy said the thing, you know?
Just on that point, I agree with you to a certain point, but not the entire thing. Like, I mean, come on, Stephen Cluxton. The discourse around Stephen Cluxton for the last couple of years has been nothing but this is not only the greatest goalkeeper of all time, but potentially one of the greatest footballers of all time. The Diarmuid Connolly discourse, even before he left the panel, was of the same ilk. The conversation we've been having about Brian Fenton is of that same description. The conversation we've been having about Jack McCaffrey is of the exact same description. We speak about these people the way they deserve to be spoken about, some of the greatest footballers of all time. What I think they don't get the credit for, perhaps, is the machine-like way that they manage to break teams down and the influence of players like Ciarán Kilkenny in that. And perhaps he, as an individual, doesn't get enough credit from us because, you know, he's not kicking Hollywood scores like Diarmuid Connolly used to do.
Yeah.
Maybe that's unfair.
I don't know. He's always talked about his potential footballer of the year, though. Look, we'll talk again about the Dubs, I suspect, before the Leinster final at the weekend with Stephen Poacher. Johanna Conta is the main picture here. Conta has Wimbledon in her sights, and they've also got an 8-page guide to Royal Ascot. It's the Telegraph, so it's Royal. So, you know, they're putting 8 pages into it. And Roy faces battle to save his World Cup dream. England opener in fitness fight, but hails to miss out. And Bangladesh have left the West Indies on the brink. It does feel like we would have benefited a lot from being in a World Cup in England.
Yeah, it would have been great to be involved in it. Obviously, it didn't happen. The way they changed the structure was obviously to kind of benefit television viewing figures, was obviously to benefit the top tier nations. And to be fair, if you have a World Cup product that you feel is not getting the most out of itself, then you are going to change things. But I guess it's the comparison between that and, say, top level hurling isn't too much of a stretch to make, that the elite are being looked after here, and then not having Ireland involved is kind of the next step from that. So it is a shame. It would have been class to be there. The Times Ireland edition this morning leads with this story. Rashford to sign new deal with Manchester United. So this is a big boost for United fans.
Don't sign it until Pogba signs his. Don't sign it. Wait until Pogba gets $500,000 and then go in and go, I want, like, you know, nearly Paul Pogba money. Don't sign it. That's my advice to his agent. Stop. Wait. Let the Pogba deal happen. And then see how much you can screw out of them.
I'm trying to find out exactly how much he's going to get paid here.
It's not saying. I read it. It doesn't say.
So it's going to be a new long-term contract, 21 years old. Manchester United already have a 1-year option of an extension. That would bring him up to 2021. The thing is, this kind of strikes me as a move that would be a kind of pointing to you, Marcus Rashford. We are going to build a team around you. This is the moment you become our marquee player. And we will come back to that in a moment because the Rashford deal is part of our deal or no deal.
Okay. Well, the story in the Mirror 2 days ago were saying that he was asking for $300,000. I'd probably take that, wouldn't you? Yeah. Although then again, come on, look at Alexis Sanchez. Look, He's taking up a seat in the dressing room and a seat in the bus. Get rid of him. Give me his money. No?
Yeah, well, you can't just get rid of somebody and just...
Get rid of him.
You can't just tell them, we're no longer going to pay you. Contracts, while they're a one-way street in football these days, they do still exist.
The Racing Post. Archer can hit target against 12 to 1 underdogs. The British Empire's 19th century duel with Russia over control of Afghanistan was known as the Great Game, but that tag may not apply to the Afghans' Cricket World Cup clash with England. What a lead paragraph. Holy shit, I hadn't read that before I read it there. Wow. James Milton. Paradise Lost.
We clearly don't read enough Racing Post previews stuff.
And then they've got the whole papers dedicated to Royal Ascot, which is fair enough because it's the Racing Post.
The back page of the Irish Daily Star is "We want more. Palace won't budge on price." Manchester United, having had a €56 million bid for Crystal Palace defender Aaron Wan-Bissaka, rejected. So I think it's a £35 million bid plus £15 million on add-ons. I think they want something closer to £50 million in guaranteed money because they're not quite sure if they'll get the £15 million add-on. Like, Crystal Palace are playing Manchester United and they know they're going to win this game. That either they keep Aaron Wan-Bissaka or they get the money they want for Aaron Wan-Bissaka. The other couple of stories on the back page, Sean Kavanagh saying only Kingdom can stop the Dubs, and one Giants leap, 25 years to the day since Razor shocked the world. We'll come back to that in just a moment.
So, the Examiner. What's next for Munster? 2 clued-in supporters preach patience with the province. And Pastures New, Rory Dean and Cork only look to the future. So, I don't know, is it wrong that I'm feeling a little bit of hope that Cork might be able to put it up to Kerry for more than 15 minutes?
No? Oh, sorry, 50. You're being sarcastic. Of course they're going to be able to put it up to Kerry for more than 15 minutes.
Are they?
We are going to have a game for 3/4 of the game on Saturday at least. And but by a game, what for you is a game? For me, it's something
Cork
that's
take the lead at some point.
They took the lead last year.
I know, in the first minute with a goal and then it was over.
It lasted 10 minutes, I think.
Okay, well, whatever. It was like... Did they score 2 early goals?
2 early goals.
Yeah.
And they were both carbon copies of one another.
Yeah, which was a bit of a harbinger of things to come. But anyway, it's a good point. Kerry were really bad last year when you put the whole thing together, aren't they?
Very disappointing season.
Yeah.
Very disappointing season. And I think that kind of plays into a lot of other narratives that might have been played up around the year as well. There's no question about it. If Kerry lose on Saturday, it's an absolute disaster. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to be a game. This is still a team that got relegated from Division 2. This is a team that finished below Clare, and Kerry went to Clare and beat them, pulling up, even though it wasn't a huge win in the end, while playing below average, I would say. So you take all those factors into account, and Cork would need to play out of their skin to win on Saturday, but I do expect them to be a hell of a lot better. I know I'm not saying much than this time last year, and I do expect this to be a contest for 50 minutes.
50-5-0.
5-0.
5-0. It's a wire reference.
How have I forgotten that wire reference? I watch TV shows and within 7 years, all the references are gone.
Well, I mean, you don't remember them chatting WMD? It was very of the moment.
It probably was, yeah.
Tomas O'Shea in the Examiner today says that Connor Cox went travelling when he was a young man instead of knuckling down with the Kerry panel, and that might have ended up being the thing that hurt him. I think there was an issue early on in terms of commitment. Not that he lacked it. When he was committed, but I think he went travelling as a young fella. And in Kerry, sometimes they might be, look, if you're not fully committed 100%, you're grand. We have fellas that are. And I don't know, is he going to get in that team now? It would be very hard to get in that team. But would the standard of training be better if Cox was there knocking on the door? Yeah, it would.
It definitely... Connor Cox is better than a lot of forwards that have played, not a lot, a good few forwards that have played for Kerry in league over the last couple of years, over the last 2-3 years, especially since this period of transition is kind of coming to its end point.
And is he a late bloomer? Is this late blooming, or is this just that that's how good he was the whole time, he wasn't given a chance?
I do wonder if what we're seeing from Connor Cox over the last couple of months is exactly why Kerry didn't exactly take to him. He loves showing off his talents. He loves putting over insane scores, especially from that left wing. I do wonder if that's happened to him in a Kerry shirt before, where he tries those outrageous efforts. A couple of them go wide, they lose a narrow league game and they're on the cusp of relegation, and Connor Cox is ultimately the person that gets blamed for it, which is kind of unfair, hugely unfair. And I wonder if that sort of perceived nature of Connor Cox is what kind of ended things for him. It's a very intriguing one. He's definitely good enough. He's still only 25. I think we have to remember it. Like, the narrative around him has been like, this is a journeyman who's travelled all the way from Kerry to Roscommon after putting in the grind with Kerry for years and years. He's still a young man.
Yeah.
He still may not have peaked. The back page of the Sun this morning is ZZ taking the PP. Real only want to pay £90 million in the battle to sign Paul Pogba. And this is the yacht, the aforementioned yacht, Frank's Blues Cruise. Joe talks on Roman yacht. So he's there for talks with Roman Abramovich on his yacht this week. It's the Eclipse. How much do you think the Eclipse is worth?
80 million.
380 million
pounds. There you go.
It's going to be anchored off glitzy Saint-Tropez, and glitzy Frank Lampard will be on board the Eclipse. And finally for me, The Guardian goes with a couple of cricket stories.
I think he has two of them.
He's got two Eclipses or two different boats that are...
Both, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm confused now.
I think he's got a bigger one, actually. The Eclipse actually looks kind of small there. Granted, it's not in scale. We don't have a coin up against the Eclipse on the back of the Sun this morning.
That Eclipse might be far away.
That's a good point. It was just kind of like the superimposed heads in front of the Eclipse there got me confused. The back page of The Guardian is captain's caution, Morgan wary of Hale's stigma, as Roy puts England on alert.
And no Mooney, here's the picture of him yesterday speaking at the Sugar Club at the Greatest League in the World podcast live event. FAI Chief insists association had gone stale with Delaney at the helm. So look, these things get written down, and some of the tone and texture. It's why really you should just listen and watch stuff as opposed to reading. I mean, reading, it's so passé these days. But anyway, Mooney joked, he was asked about the anti-FAI songs in international matches. Mooney joked, I often sing the song myself when I can. See, when you see that written down, you're like, come on. But actually, in context, I'm sure it made sense and they probably got a laugh, and that was the spirit of the evening. I fully understand, and I often sing it at matches myself when I can, he said of those. I understand because what's happened over the last few months, I am angry. I'm disappointed and ashamed at how our beautiful game has gone. What's happened has put Irish soccer into a difficult spot. When we don't do what we should do, we should be ashamed. It's right that people should talk about it, but it's our responsibility to make football the best it can be. There are lots of areas where the FAI are good. There are great people working there, but I do believe that what has happened there is not good enough. The fans should voice their concerns. They should put up banners. They should say they are pissed off. My eyes are open to staleness. We had a CEO who was there for 15 years, a long time, and it's hard to keep that motivation for such a long time, and there are areas where we need to be refreshed. Like, I would say Noel Mooney would be going about his business quietly in the background if Shane Ross hadn't intervened and said that he wanted him gone. Like, really, this issue with Mooney, he hasn't had the opportunity to address it yet, right? And so he's coming out now and he's saying that's different. Like, I think the speech that he made isn't as big a deal as it was made out to be, where he was praising Delaney. It's like you get invited to somebody's house, you're going to go, screw you. I think you're a bit stale here after 15 years. You're not. You're going to go, this food is nice, this is great, everything's great, right?
Yeah, it's true.
That's the job. Now the job is something different. And I'll be interested to see what kind of a career he has there, as opposed to assuming that it's going to be crap because he has come from the FAI, which is effectively what's happened with Ross.
It's far more just to judge somebody on their actual actions rather than their words, I guess. And it's hard to actually decipher just how much he believed in those words at the time. Does he deserve the benefit of the doubt at this point? And was he in a very fortunate position that he was essentially, when things started to go wrong for the FAI, he was essentially outside the tent, so he could be brought back in. Would he just be another one of the people that will be walking in to meet the Oireachtas committee a couple of months ago had he stayed with the FAI? Would he just be another one? Well, we don't know because events have changed that. He comes back in now, and I do think he deserves the benefit of the doubt to a point. I was actually looking at his quotes yesterday, and I was like, well, this is very interesting. He's doing what John Delaney didn't do, and he was like praising the League of Ireland and saying how it's such an important facet of all of this. But then I realised he was talking on the Greatest League in the World podcast, and maybe he's just pandering to the audience. But then again, we don't know. Then again, maybe it's actually
true.
A really important facet of his thinking and how Irish football should be run.
Yeah, so he needs to get that vision out there pretty quickly, and he needs to say how he's going to work with all of the other people who were in the room at the stakeholders conversation in the Mansion House a couple of weeks back. The only other thing, sorry, there was two quick things there. Michael Verdi has it that Bonner Marr has done his cruise shit which I think a lot of people would have suspected. He says that the MRI scan yesterday confirmed the worst fears with an ACL rupture of his knee. Now, Tip did issue a statement saying last night that they had no news today and that news would break tonight after training. So Michael seems to have better sources. And the only other one there is Given set to join Lampard as Given set to join Lampard as Blues clear decks. So the goalkeeper coach, who was of course at fault for that massive situation when the keeper refused to be substituted before the penalty shootout. Richard Sarri stormed down the... They got compensation from Juventus for the manager who stormed off in the middle of a game. The Chelsea business people are the best business people in football.
Well, if you judge them on this one...
Well, that one thing, that's enough. Yeah. I mean, they're also pretty good at, like, getting young talent and never playing them and getting loads of money for it.
But also, I would say the first part of that is particularly true.
But anyway, they were clearly going to fire Mauricio Sarri. And anyway, the goalkeeper coach, apparently he's the fall guy for that. So Shay Given's going to be the new goalkeeper coach under Frank Lampard. Is that as meteoric a rise as Frank Lampard?
I would say so, yeah. I would say Kepa Arrizabalaga getting under the tutelage of Shay Given is a meteoric rise for Kepa.